Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Ayo God, you give me breath, you keep me fresh. So check my mic, check my life, check my sight. You get me right, make me new. That's what you do.
Welcome
You're my
back,
truth.
and we are now on episode 9, and it is titled Fear and the Spirit of Infirmity. I know many of you all are like, when are we going to stop talking about fear? I could go on and go on about fear and the way that spirit creeps up in your life. Pretty soon we'll be done talking about fear, but for right now, we're going to look at how fear brings on the spirit of infirmity. Remember, everybody, I am not a licensed medical practitioner or doctor. If you feel that you need some extensive support, meaning that you feel like maybe praying and hearing someone else speaking about the things you're going through is still not enough, I would still continue to say to you, go even stronger and harder before the Lord. Ask Him to reveal to you the things that are unknown to you. Ask Him to reveal the reasons why you are experiencing the things in your life. Because remember, in the last episode, He does speak through us, through other people. He could send that message through your friend, through social media. He could send that message through a doctor, through a stranger that you would least expect to talk to you. So make sure you reach out. And again, reach out to your doctor. Reach out. If you let your primary doctor know that you need to talk to somebody, if you're at a school, reach out to a social worker, a guidance counselor for those of you that are high school students or college students. Reach out to the Student Success Center where you can find support. And as an adult, you do have, and most companies have available to their employees, resources if you need counseling, whatever you may be going through. And I know that's a sticky situation because you might not want to talk to your employers or your coworkers, because remember, as everybody says, they're not your friends. You're just there to get to work. But if you do have that service on the job, see if you can reach out for it. Otherwise, I would encourage you to go to God, because He's a little bit quicker sometimes, not in everything, but sometimes He can give you that answer sooner, the answer you've been asking, the answer that you've been looking for, and people have been startled by it and don't know how to answer you. And God will come out of nowhere and give it to you. But I'm not discouraging you from going to a doctor. I encourage you, if you are faith-based, to deal with a faith-based counselor who can look at the biblical and the physical as well. So keep that in mind. And as we continue, we're going to talk about fear and the spirit of infirmity. All right, what does that have to do? Okay, when you deal with demonic attack, not everybody is dealt with the same way. That enemy that's watching you is going to watch things that are particular to you and your life. How do I get her? How do I get him? For you, you might say, well, when I watch this on TV, nothing happens. Or when I listen to this music, something happens. And then for me, I might say something happens when I watch that or when I listen to that. So different things for different people, but don't rule out the enemy's schemes in your life. Again, if you feel like this has nothing to do with you, at least be aware of it. If you are going to have kids, if you work with kids, understand that kids are in households that have these things going on and no one knows about it. So keep that in mind. So fear and the spirit of infirmity, according to a definition in dictionary online, infirmity is defined as a sickness or bodily disease. Now, some people may say they were born with something or it runs in the family. And I'm going to say this, just because you were born with it or just because it runs in the family, it doesn't mean you have to be that way forever. It doesn't mean that that's the final answer, because God has the last word and the final say so over where that disease will go, that illness will go, and how you will live with it or won't live with it, right? And there are some people who will say, well, then God let some people die. That's a whole nother episode. Right now, we're looking at the spirit of infirmity. It is considered a sickness caused by a spirit or being crippled by a spirit. Again, we are a faith-based podcast, so we deal with things that are biblical. So I go and get my reference from the biblical. I consult the biblical in all things that I do, even if I don't understand it. Even if I'm feeling at my worst, I'm still going to consult God, no matter how bad I feel or how happy I am. So, the spirit of infirmity is a sickness. So, that cold or that flu or that inflammation, think about it in this aspect: a spirit, an evil spirit, not a spirit that loves you, an evil spirit that is against you, has put infirmity on you. What is infirmity going to do? Interfere with what you have to do in life. We encounter the spirit of infirmity in Luke 13:11. I always say KJV, but if there's a better version for you, you go ahead and use that. Double up on your versions of the Bible so that you can make sure you link the proper words and context and settings back with the origination of the meanings, right? There's the woman with the issue of blood, and people who are faith-based have heard that story millions of times, lots of times, and you say, okay, well, I know that. She's 18 years with the issue of blood. When you read the word, it says that woman had a spirit of infirmity. It didn't say that she had a period. It didn't say that she had this or she had that. It said that she had an spirit of infirmity for 18 years. 18 years is a long time. Imagine 18 years of feeling in pain. This woman was not described as beautiful or sexy. She was described as bent over. Bent over 18 years with that spirit upon her. If you read further, it says that Jesus lays hand and delivers her. He says, "Woman, thou art loosed." Think about that. This is something that Jesus had to consult. Jesus had to get involved in order for it to be removed from her. Now, I'm not going to say that that's the case for everybody. I am going to say that because there are people who would argue that, well, this happened to my sister and my brother and my aunt and my uncle and my grandma, and God did not do this. People love to look at God in that manner, like God is a genie or something, right? I can't tell you why he didn't do that for that case. But I will say to you this: in this particular scenario setting, this woman is bent over in a position of brokenness. She's not able to do much. She's limited because of her being bent over by that spirit. So that spirit is its own self, its own person. Think about it that way. It has its own mind. It's alert. It's aware. It's knowledgeable. It's alive. It's not a dead thing. It's a dead thing that's alive and put on this woman to interrupt her. We don't know what she could have been years prior to the 18 years. We don't know if she was 70, 80, 20, 30, whichever way you want to look at it. Imagine 18 years of what she was limited in doing. Think about if you were bent over with the issue of blood, what you wouldn't be able to do and what you could do. Think about her calling. Think about her career. Think about her quality of life and what that would feel like. So that spirit of infirmity has been with her, living in her, living on her, all of that time. And it took Jesus 18 years, I want to say the 19th year later, to deliver her from this thing. Now imagine the joy she would have felt. Imagine maybe even confusion and disappointment. But she was in the vicinity of Jesus, knowing that he's a healer, that he was coming through town. So this tells me that if I go to Jesus and I'm dealing with the spirit of infirmity, that I too can be delivered. So I would have to take the necessary steps to go before God with that. Did she stay in fear? Well, we don't know. There's limited text on what we know about her, but think about it. I'm sure she probably was afraid. I'm sure probably the first year. What if this issue of blood was affecting her from having kids and she watched all the other girls during that time, whatever to the standard of pretty was back then? Imagine in her mind that she's watching all the girls go by and she's growing up and she still has the issue of blood and she doesn't know what to do. But she didn't stop. She didn't quit and she didn't give up. Because she was still bent in her place where she was so that Jesus could find her. She lined up herself in that way. So if you're dealing with an issue of blood for 18 years or whatever name you want to give to it, 5 years, 10 years, a year, the past 2 months, the past 2 weeks, and you're noticing that it's lingering and it hasn't gone yet, I would consult God and ask him, is this a spirit of infirmity? Who has this in the family? Where did this come from? I would encourage everybody that's listening to me, to this podcast, and listening to the words that God has given me and the wisdom, I would encourage you to do a background check on your family to see what runs in there, be it good or bad. Okay, so Jesus lays hands on her. So I would encourage, like myself, I've gone to deliverance churches, I've gone to pastors to be prayed over. And I've come back at times with still no resolve. Like, okay, well, the pastor just prayed over me, God. Like, what is this? Is this thing stronger than you, Lord? Because why is it still here? So then having to ask further, how come she was delivered and how come I wasn't delivered? So that can be frustrating and that could leave fear. And as long as fear is there, there's room for infirmity. Remember now, if you didn't learn anything from any of the episodes, fear is the strong man. Fear is the man that's the door, opening the door, saying, come on in procrastination, come on in infirmity, come on in lust, come on in delay, come on in poverty, bringing all his friends to the family reunion. Right? And you don't know what's going on because you're listening to people who say that, you know, his anointed can't be touched, or this can't happen, or this can't happen, and they're using no weapon formed against me shall prosper. But remember, weapons form. They may to some extent touch you in some manner, but it just may not be all the way if you're before the Lord. So think about those things now. Now we move on to infirmity playing out in my life. How has infirmity affected my life? I'm a person who people, even before my college friends, I'm a person who people have known as being jovial, positive, happy, uplifting. I've been told I'm refreshing, all of these things, right? Joyful. I've had people say, man, you be going through stuff and the next day you be happy, right? It wasn't on purpose. It's the way that God has wired me. So that's how I know I'm dealing with demonic attack and spiritual warfare. I was about to say spiritual affairs, spiritual warfare, because the enemy doesn't like that. And he will show up through people and have them be mean-spirited, have them be ugly in spirit, because they're mad that you're happy. And I don't have $1 million, but it would be nice to have $1 million and pay off all of my student loans. Wouldn't that be wonderful for me? That would relieve a lot of infirmity. Anywho, before an event or an occasion would come about, I'd find myself like, okay, I'm getting ready to go do this, or I'm getting ready to go do that, which means that there is a monitoring spirit, which means, and I say this because if an event is coming up for me or something is coming up for me that is good, and infirmity wants to now come on before that event, that tells me that something is watching. Something is watching to say, when is she having this event? When is she doing this? Let's throw this monkey wrench in there to interfere with what she has to do so that she doesn't have a good time. Remember, your enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Whether he's dealing with me or somebody else or coming after somebody else, that's what his goal and his objectives are, right? So you have a special occasion coming up. You have a special event. All hell is breaking loose. Now your body feels this way. You don't feel that way. You feel sluggish. You don't feel jovial, excited. You don't feel happy. All because you have an event. And if you're smart and you're aware and you have some wisdom, by now you will learn to rebuke it, renounce it, denounce it, to come out of agreement with anything that would have caused that and still push it through and do what is necessary. A lot of people nowadays will give in to the, I'm not going then. I'm not going to attend the event because I feel bad or I feel this. That's not what God would want you to do. But again, I would say to you to renounce it. If you notice that's a pattern in your life, renounce whatever infirmity is trying to come upon you. Or it happens out of nowhere. You were just feeling good one day, and then out of nowhere, boom, here goes you feeling like, I feel groggy, I feel sick, I feel this, I feel that. Okay, I'm not going out tonight. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to the gym because I feel this. Just happens out of nowhere. You were just feeling 100% A-okay, and then now you don't feel well. Or it tries to hold you back from being who you are. What do I mean by that? Again, people know me as being the happy, jovial person, the positive person, right? No matter what would happen to me. And even as I experience warfare now, the smile is still there. The joviality is still there. It may not pop out like it used to, but it is there. And I know that the enemy is trying to wear you out and bring weariness. And if it can't get you one way, it's going to try another way. So for me, because I'm a mover and a shaker, I'm a person who doesn't stay in the house. I get up and go. I do what I have to do, regardless of how I feel, regardless of what I think, regardless of how bad it may be. So the enemy has to find another way to come at me. So it waits for me to when I go to sleep. It waits for me when I'm, it doesn't want me to be able to get up and go out and do what I have to do. So those of you that are listening to this podcast, like I asked last episode, I asked you all to stand in agreement with prayer for my deliverance and my healing as you listen to this. And if you are in need of prayer and healing and deliverance, I pray that God will hear you out and he will administer his angels to you, and he will provide not only the deliverance, the liberty, and the peace that comes along with it, and everything that's supposed to be lined up in your life. Now, as I move forward, so the enemy tries to use infirmity to hold you back. So now, instead of you being happy, now you turn into being sad. Or instead of you getting up, you now become like what the world wants you to do. The world likes to say that people are full of trauma, anxiety, and depression. They love to put that on children. They love to put that on women. And I'm not saying that you never will get depressed. I'm not saying that you'll never feel anxiety ever in your life, because different occasions you may feel it. But to constantly be wearing depression and anxiety every day, that is not righteous. That is not right. Something is wrong with that. You have to do something about that, and you have to take the proper necessary protocol steps to better yourself from that. And there are a lot of people who would say that's not true. I know people who are depressed every day. Okay, and that's fine. I would say dig a little further. Be the scientist. Be the engineer. Get to the root. The old people say rut of the problem. Get to the root of that problem and see what is it that's causing that person depression. Who has it in the family? Who has it generationally and passed it down? Do some research on your great-grandparents, grandparents, grand-aunts, grand-cousins, and find out. See what doors would have been open spiritually. I guarantee you if you do the search, you'll go back and find out somewhere in the door was open. So the next time we'll talk about that on the in episodes to come, but not right now. So trying to hold you back from being your best. It doesn't want you to be doing the most, because the enemy is prideful. The enemy wants to show for himself. He doesn't want anybody else to get recognition. He doesn't want anybody else to get noticed. So he does things spiritually with his demonic groupings of friends and covens of witches and stuff to do things against you, to dim your light. So the infirmity can be used to stop you from showing your light. So if you've been going through something, and I say this again, I am not saying that you should never go to a doctor. I am not saying that you should never go to a counselor, but I'm advising you, because we're both of flesh and spirit, to find someone that is faith-based. Find someone that understands the spiritual. I think the world will consider that as holistic. And if you want to go the holistic route, that's between you and God, right? But the next thing would be doctors not knowing what was wrong. I've been to doctors before, only to find out that they can't find anything. They don't understand. They don't see anything wrong. And then when they don't see anything wrong and you're telling them you're having symptoms, then it becomes that maybe it's in your head, or maybe you're just trying to be a hypochondriac, but you feel all the symptoms in your body that's causing you to feel some type of way. You don't drink, you don't smoke, you're not overcompensating or compensating by being sexual or overeating or indulging in spending or indulging in not seeing your body the way that it's supposed to be. There's a number of things that you can mention, and I don't say those things to knock. I say those things to, instead of self-medicating, get to the bottom of what's causing your situation to happen. Get to the bottom of it. Be the mathematician. Be the financier. Be that person who digs deeper. Excavate. Go look deeper in your family. Maybe you have some hurt somewhere. An open door, or maybe you don't have an open door and the enemy is trying to get you to open door. Maybe you are the person who's never ever been afraid in life, and now all of a sudden one thing happens and now you're afraid. Well, honey, sir, ma'am, bruh, sis, let me tell you, it only takes one time for the enemy to get you to agree with them, because the enemy is filthy and dirty. The enemy plays head games, mind games, spiritual games. The enemy, remember now, the enemy was kicked out of heaven. You know? The enemy had first dibs with God. And what did he do? He messed it up. We didn't mess that up for him. He messed it up. And now he doesn't want anybody else to be happy or blessed. He doesn't want anybody to be in a positive state of mind or living well. If it's up to him, everybody will be living in poverty and never blessing or helping anyone. So trust and believe, if you are a kingdom worker, you are going to come against people who should be going to the hospital, people who should be going to the doctors, people who should be going to the counselors are not going. Instead, they're in these spaces at work, at home, even at the club, in the grocery stores, and they're doing things through projection, being evil, speaking word curses, being nasty. So you got to stay prayed up, and the beauty of these episodes, it comes at a cost, because I've suffered a lot. So you're not getting somebody who's never suffered. I've suffered a whole lot, and I feel it in my body. I feel it in just sitting down to record this, right? I am grateful for the things that I've come through, and I look forward to the other side of these episodes and seeing this gain more followers and to reach a place where I can eventually pay off all of my bills, but not without doing it to help those who are in need. It came at a cost. It comes at a cost. Doctors not knowing what's wrong, and they send you back home. And now you go home and the aspirin doesn't fix it, but you pray, it goes away, then you brush it off, and then it comes back again, and you're like, well, you know what? Why am I going to the doctor if the doctor doesn't know what's going on? Right? Imagine what that feels like. Okay, now we're going to look at the types of infirmity that will show up, not just in myself, but in others. For me, it's been headaches. I never used to have headaches. All of a sudden, I get headaches. Never been a headache person. Just like I've never been a coffee person. Still don't desire it. And because of these things are true for me, the enemy, because I'm spiritually aware, let me say this to you. I see when the enemy is trying to force these things on me, trying to put me in positions where I end up with a headache that I don't want, that I never asked for, or the sore muscles. Imagine sore muscles, like the feeling of when you go to the gym and the next day you finish working your legs and your arms, and the next day you feel sore, you can't move your legs and arms, right? So now you can't go to the gym because you feel some type of way in your body. Or to move, you need your body to move. So think about that. Or you're extra cold. For me, I've dealt with anemia only to find the doctor say you don't have anemia. And then the next doctor says you have anemia, right? They're not sure. Anemia doesn't feel good because when you feel it, like those people who are symptomatic, then they won't understand what I'm talking about. But when you feel it and you feel cold, you're chilly and cold in a room where it's warm, right? And you should be warm, but you're chilly and you're cold. Or dealing with fibroids, heavy menstrual cramping and bleeding and pain, right? I wish I had known about it in the 20s, and I would have, again, this is why I say that some of the adults that have been in our lives have really failed us. And it's not to be mean or to be nasty or be negative or try to make them feel bad, because some of them didn't know better, or some of them, again, were not taking care of their emotional situations instead of, projecting their negative energy on you, or their desires, lack of desire towards anything towards you. There would be the cramp pain, can't get out of bed, or get out of bed and you don't feel good, right? The fibroids causing pain below, and you're like, when is this going to be over? Or the chest pain. You're walking from one side of the room to the other and you're having a chest pain, or you're walking up steps, or you're walking across the street and you're having chest pain, and you're like, where is this coming from? You have some people say, oh, when you get older, you're going to feel all of these things, right? Let me tell you something. Something happened to me recently over the last month, and I had never had any pains of this sort in my life that I can remember. And out of nowhere, which I will disclose at a later time, I wake up out of my sleep with all of this pain. There was nobody in the apartment. My body's in excruciating pain, my face, my cheeks. And I'm like, God, my cheeks on my face. I'm like, God, what is this? And I wake up to see on both sides of my face, where the lower cheek line is, I wake up to see dents in my face. I know that it was spiritual, whatever it was that happened, because it happened when I was asleep, and I woke up to feel the pain and then brushed it off. So imagine dealing with things like that and then all of a sudden having pain. See, that tells me it's a spirit of infirmity being inflicted upon me, because I'm the person, I know my body and I know who I am and whose I am. Even if I don't have a husband or kids yet, I know the woman, the girl, the teenager that I've been, that I still am. And I'm a person who's normally happy and excited about things, right? I want to do things. I want to travel. I want to create. I love it. I love the Lord. To be feeling in pain, because you know what happens when you start dealing with pain. And I need to write this down. This is going to be another episode. When you deal with pain, you start to speak negative. And that's another way. So see how the trickery of the enemy is? When you're in heavy pain and it's drastic, and you've been from a person that's happy to now flip to the other side, and you're in all this pain, you have to be careful about what you speak. The enemy is watching on the side, like how when you go to a football game or basketball game, a spectator watching, the demons are watching you to say, hey, we got her where we want her. Is she still going to praise God? Are you still going to be Job and praise God regardless, right? I've also dealt with blurriness in the eyes out of nowhere. Sinus. Around the time when this situation happened a few weeks ago, I ended up having sinus issues, and as long as I've been alive, I've never had any serious sinus pains of such. So that's how I know that I'm dealing with the spirit of infirmity. That's why I can tell someone, because you know how, again, in the beginning of the first episode for this podcast, we talked about being in relationship with fear. When you have a relationship with Christ, it's not a flex. It's something that He's given you, that He's gifted you with. That when you have that, you are able to sense when something is wrong. You are able to sense that things are happening that should not be happening, right? So keep that in mind. Having that relationship with Christ is important. We're going to look at now some scriptures against infirmity. If you look at Jeremiah 17:14, the word of God says, heal me, O Lord, and I shall be healed. Save me, and I shall be saved, for thou art my praise. Well, Jeremiah is saying this. So when I say the word of God, I call it collectively. But Jeremiah is saying, heal me, O Lord, and I shall be healed. If he has faith that if God heals him, he's going to be healed. Save me, and I shall be saved, for thou art my praise. That's the God that he serves, and he's acknowledging that. In Psalm 103:3, it says, who forgiveth all thine iniquities? Who healeth all thy diseases? Psalm 103. We know that David is in there. And look at that question. Who forgives you of your iniquities? Think about like sins that's been going on for a long time in the family, right? that's passed down. Serious things. Who healeth all thy diseases? And then you have Isaiah 53:5. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was laid upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. So Isaiah is like reminding us, right, that the stripes that Jesus bore on that cross, it's healing for us. It was a testament towards him healing us. And that's the person who we can go to. It all points back to the Lord. So if you are experiencing anything similar to this, whether it's small as a cold or a headache, whatever you notice in your body, I would take it to the Lord. And I always say do that first. And I would ask God to reveal to me. So spend time with the Lord. Spend time building relationship. And then I would go to whatever doctor that you feel that God has, that God is directing you to. And I would take it from there. But I would not go without God first, right? So a quick recap. We're looking at the spirit of infirmity. It's a spirit. It's not a positive spirit. It's not a helpful spirit. It's a spirit that comes to kill, steal, and destroy. We know from the woman with the issue of blood. And you can find other places in the Bible for you, whatever story resonates with you more, where there's infirmity. It's Jesus in this situation lays hands and delivers her from this spirit, which tells you it's a spirit and it needs to get off of you. It says, woman, thou art loosed, right? How did it play out in my life? It comes before an event or an occasion, happens out of nowhere, trying to hold me back from who I am as a person. Doctors not knowing what is wrong, right? The types of infirmities showing up for me, headaches, sore muscles, some things I've never experienced until now. So I say this to say this. In your life, it may be different. You might say, like some people say, when you hit this certain age, then this is when you start feeling these things. And that's not always true, because there are teenagers and young adults and children who are in hospitals right now experiencing things that older people or midlife people have never experienced. So be careful when you take on those statements that people like to blanket statements to say about people, and I'm not talking about stereotypes, because that's a whole other episode. Stereotypes do exist even if we don't want them to exist, right? But we're talking about people putting infirmity on you, saying that's just life and that's just age. What I endured over the past few weeks was not just life, and it was not just age, because life and just age doesn't just out of nowhere all of a sudden you get a hole in the side of your face or your skin becomes loose. And people will say that's stress. But what is causing the stress? Who caused the stress? Think about those things. That's another episode. In the meantime, guys, as I say, God did not give us a spirit of fear, and he didn't give us those other spirits either. You don't have to believe in anything that I'm speaking to you, but you can look it up on GotQuestions.org. You can look it up on any other website. You can call prayer lines. And I say these things because I do it for myself, but I say them for you as well. If you feel like you don't have anybody supporting you, because I know what it is to have lack of support and people pretending to help who don't actually help at all. So I encourage you, for those of you that have family members that you can go to, those of you that have counselors that you can go to, or if you don't want to go to a counselor and you want to go to the pastor, make sure you are being truthful to them and letting them know. But I encourage you to go to someone that will address both sides of the story, and not one or the other, because we are flesh and blood. So again, remember, I love you, and so does God. He loves you as well. Whatever you may be going through in this season of your life right now, don't forget to stop and praise him, pray and worship, and make sure that you are fasting somewhere in between those things. And until next time, remember, I love you, and I say that again wholeheartedly. He did not give us a spirit of fear, but one of a love and a sound mind. This is the To Be Called podcast. It's been so much fun. It's your girl signing off on the ones and twos, but not without him. You're going to have to choose. So seek his kingdom first, and all things shall be added unto you. I ain't nothing without you, Abba.
Mic check, mic check.